Alexa, can you hear me now? Okay. Um, what I was telling is we have done with the hormones, and now we are doing. We have finished last week the sympathetic and parasympathetic division, and we just started about maintaining the resting potential. Neda? Hi. Then we have to talk about generation of an action potential. Right. Right, let's come to action potential. You know, like when there is an stimulus coming to a receptor, it is generating action potential, and then it is transmitted as a nerve impulse to the relevant part of the human brain, right? For example, if you see light, the light is going to your retina, and the retina is having the photoreceptors. We call them as rods and cones, and they are generating an action potential, and nerve impulse is created, and this nerve is sent as a nerve impulse to the occipital lobe of the human brain, cerebrum, and then it is perceived, right? So that is how it is happening. 1 minute. Let's go to the definition of action potential. An action potential occurs due to a change in membrane potential above a certain value. That is called as the threshold value. Due to a stimulus. So, for example, you know, like we can hear only the sound waves 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. And the light wavelength from 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers. So, the threshold level here is 20 hertz, 400 nanometers. If the stimulus is above this threshold level only, you are generating a nerve signal. Otherwise, you can't feel these senses. There may be a lot of sounds around you, but since they are below 20 or above 20,000 hertz, you can't hear. You know, like some dogs, they can hear the sound waves than us, neither. So there are some whistles also to call dogs, but we can't hear that. So that means different animals, different organisms are having different threshold values in order to generate stimulus, right? Okay. Hari. Check in the tute. I have kept space to write the definition here. ජනවාරිනේ මම පටන් ගන්නවා කිව්වේ. තාම මට මෙහෙන් කන්ෆර්මේෂන් එක හම්බුන්නේ නැහැ ටයිමින් එක. මගේ ෆස්ට් අයිඩියාව සෝවලන් තව දවසක එන්න කියලා ඊළඟ දවස් ඩිස්කෂන් යන්න. හැබැයි මට ඊට පස්සේ විතර මම හිටියනම් හොඳයි කියලා සෙනසුරාදාම පැය දෙකම කරමු කියලා දවසක් පේපර් එක දවසක් මේ මොනවාද දවසක් ඩිස්කෂන් එක වගේ මං සුදීර්සට කියලා තියෙන සුදීර්ස කන්ෆර්ම් කරනකො මං ආයෙ අහන්න. හොඳේ? මේ මාසේ කොහොමද මං එක්ස්ට්‍රා ගන්නවා කිව්වනේ කමින් අප් වීක් එකේ නිවාඩු මාසේ ඒක වොරි වෙන්න එපා. මං කොහොමද ඔයාලට පේපර්ස් කරනවානේ. ජනවාරි තමයි මෙහෙ අරහේ ඔක්කොම ඒවා එක දිගට එකට පටන් ගමු. හරි? ඕකේ? වොරි වෙන්න එපා පේපර්ස් කරන්න ප්‍රශ්න අහන්න. තව පේපර්ස් ගොඩක් අප්ලෝඩ් කරලා ඇති 13 papers in the telegram group පොඩි පොඩි questions දානවා ඒව කරන්න. හරි? 13 වෙනකන් ඉන්න එපා. ඒවා තියෙන ඒවා ඔයගොල්ලෝ possible ඒවා කරන්න. ගොඩක් හොඳ papers ටිකක් ඔක්කොම වගේ අප්ලෝඩ් කරා answers එක්කම. හරි? හරි. යමුද ඊළඟ එකට? done? හරි. The action potential has three phases. First one is depolarization. Number two is repolarization. And number three is hyperpolarization. If you can remember, we have heard these words. Where? Right. So, firstly, we are going to the depolarization phase. If you can remember the situation inside a cell in the resting potential, there were more negative ions inside the membrane, and inside was negative compared to outside. Outside positively charged because there was more sodium like ions outside in the resting potential, no? Isn't it? So sodium is more outside than inside. Here it is potassium is high in inside than outside. Alright? So this is going to get reversed in the depolarization phase. So what is going to happen? Inside is going to get more positively charged compared to the outside. Okay? Alright. Then so what is going to happen is sodium channels are going to get open and sodium is rapidly going to go inside and changing the membrane potential. In the resting potential maintenance, we always try to keep the inside more negative by keeping sodium more outside. Hi, come to this one, depolarization. A change in cell's membrane potential such that the inside of the membrane is made less negative relative to the outside. Depolarization results sodium plus inflow from the sodium channels bound to the plasma membrane in response to a stimulus. There are transmembrane proteins with pores so that the sodium ions are rapidly coming inside, making inside is more positive than the outside. Then repolarization. So once the depolarization is done, repolarization is happening. So it says sodium channels close, blocking sodium inflow. However, most potassium channels open, permitting potassium to outflow. That means now it is trying to reverse to the initial position where it is non-conducting the resting potential. That means you are going to send positive ions to outside while preventing positive ions to coming inside. නේද? එළියෙන් positive wave ඇතුළට එන්න දෙන්නෙත් නැහැ. ඇතුළේ ඒවා යවනවා එළියට. Repolarization, sodium channels close, blocking sodium inflow. However, most potassium channels open, permitting potassium outflow. This makes the inside cell negative. Right. Come to the diagram given there. That is the most important part here. The graph. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට section wise නෙමෙයි revision එක යන්නේ හොඳ. මම මේ දවස්වල plan කරන ගමන් ඉන්නේ full කරපු content එකෙන් පැය දෙකේ වගේ full paper එකක් යන විදිහට කරන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔක්කොම MCQ structured essay and essay included. හරි? බබාලා කරලා වැඩක් නැහැ නේ. lesson එක කියලා දීලා. එතකොට you will study well and come no. Right? So here this side is time. This side is membrane potential. Minus 100, minus 50, 0, plus 50. So resting potential is about minus 60 to minus 80 නේද දෙලා තිබ්බේ. හරි එහෙනම් ඒකේ ඉන්නේ මෙතන. Right? And then in the depolarization the membrane potential is changing. So here they say that this is the threshold value. So the membrane potential change should pass the threshold value in order to depolarize the membrane. So here to here about plus 40, this is the action potential. So now up to here, okay? So here to here action potential, this is the resting potential. Now what is happening after depolarization? Repolarization. So here the repolarization phase, it is going to get reversed and coming back to the normal level. But here, when it comes to the resting potential value, in the hyperpolarization, it goes little below than this one and coming up. Can you understand? And then it is returning back to the resting potential one more time after hyperpolarization. Understood? Alright. Let's go to the answers and write down the answers from that section and come. You need to know how to draw this properly. Lamai? Here may I mark your structured essay. If you want, you can see. I didn't finish marking essays. සොලියුට්ස් එක ගත්තා. ඊට පස්සේ ආයෙ ඒගොල්ලන් හදලා තිබ්බාන්ස් එක. ඒක මම හදන්න. සෙක්ෂුවල් එකනේ. Sexual conjugation in binary fission asexual. Fission of asexual. Conjugation is only method that they have sexual. ඔතන ගන්න නෑ නෑ. Conjugation sexual. බලන්න දෙන්නකෝ මම කායි ගෙනියනවා. Right. Okay. Done. Right. There are some questions remaining. I'll do it quickly. සවිෂ්ක හරිද පුතේ කළාද? Right. Can we go to the next one? Right. Let's talk about refractory period. So once an action potential is generated, there is some phase that is not sending or not generating any action potential. That we call it as refractory period. That means this is not allowing nerve impulses to go one after the other. Like that means like there is a little gap between, right? So this prevents reverse conduction of nerve impulses. නේද? බලමු මොනවද කියන්නේ කියලා. Refractory period is a short time immediately after an action potential in which neuron cannot respond to another stimulus. ඒ කියන්නේ continuously යවන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ, right? There's a small period that is not sending owing to the inactivation of sodium channels. This prevents reverse conduction of an impulse in an axon. Another. Right. ඒකත් ලියලෙමු. අපි මේ අර ගොල්ලක් මාර්ක් කරේ. දාලා නැහැ නේ. හරියට මම බලන්න මම කොහොමද මොකක්ද හලවන්න තියෙන්නේ උඩ? Ah, yeah, sure. That's a shape, man. That's a nice shape. Draw it properly. Right. Okay. Right. So I'm going to tell how an action potential is transmitted as a nerve impulse through the axon. Right. So here, usually when it is not sending an impulse, inside is negative compared to the outside. So if an action potential is generated, this is going to get reversed now. So at one point only this is happening, positive, negative, right? In this is a 3D structure, so this is like a circle now. So this side also same happens like this. So this place is now depolarized. This is inducing, negative, positive charges are interacted now. So, right? So this is inducing an action potential in the adjacent location. So in the second diagram, I'm drawing what is happening at the second place. Now here, this place is going to get depolarized, right? Initial location is going to get now repolarized. So inside should be negative, outside should be positive. Neither the other places are same like before, right? So now this is inducing the other place, neither. So here the third place. So this place is now going to get repolarized. This place is going to get depolarized now. තේරුණාද පුතේ? කොහොමද කියලා move වෙන්නේ? Right. And also they are telling this transmission will be more faster if the axon is having more big diameter. Also, if there are anglia nodes, like if in this case, if there are anglia nodes, only the node place only get depolarized, right? So from node to node, the impulse is jumping, right? So here, from here to here, it's jumping. So that it is going faster than usual one. Another, right? Read about that one and get the answers quickly. lung එක තමයි right lung. Function එක මේ vocal cords මේ වෙලා sound එක දෙන එකයි බෑනේ. Pharynx එක නේ කරන්නේ ඔය pharynx එකේ function එක. කොතනද? මොනවද කරන්නේ? ඇබිසෙක් නෙවෙයි. එතනින් නෙවෙයි. ඇබිසෙක් නෙවෙයි. තීල් දෙනවනේ. මම බලන්න. හොඳයි කරලා තියෙනවා. නෑ ටිකක් කරලානේ. ඕ එහෙම තමයි ඉතින්. තව උත්සාහ කරන්න ඕන පුතේ දැම්ම වැඩ නොකරොත් නම් බෑ ඉතින් මේ වැඩේ හොඳ. දැන් තමයි හරි දැන් ඔයගලන්ට ඇටෙන්ෂන් එනවා දැන් වැඩ ඉවරයි. හරි යමුද පුතේ ඊළඟ ටිකට. ඔක හරි උත්තර ලිව්වා. right. Conduction of an action potential they have given in wordings. Let's read it. A series of action potentials that move along axon is defined as a nerve impulse. An action potential is generated due to sodium inflow or depolarization at one location in the axon. The axon potential spreads to a neighboring location while the initial location repolarizes. This repolarization processes is repeated through the axon. The speed of conduction depends on these two things, as I told, diameter of the axon and presence of myelinated sheaths, myelinated axon. Have the over the exam table. Finish. Easy. Good, good. Happy. Others? Chemistry, physics? So what sections came most? Organic. That's right. I'll forward the Southern Province ones also I have. You can do those also. Right. So here, I'm going to the synapses. That means now impulse is bought from one axon and it needs to go to another cell or another neuron via a small junction. So that junction we call it as a synapse. So you need to continue the impulse because only one axon cannot bring the impulse to everywhere. No? So it has to pass to the next cell or next neuron. Neither. Let's go to the definition here. It is a junction where a neuron, we call it as presynaptic cell. Communicates with another cell. That is called postsynaptic cell. What brings the impulse? Presynaptic cell. What takes the impulse? We call it as postsynaptic cell. Right? So this is the definition of a synapse. And it says that postsynaptic cell may be another neuron, muscle cell or secretory cell. You are giving the information to those, right? And this junction where one neuron communicates with the next is cell using chemical neurotransmitter is called chemical synapse. Some neurons can also communicate through direct electrical connections. That kind of a junction we called it as electrical synapse. So that there are two types of synapses. What are the two types? Electrical synapses, chemical synapses. Let's write the answers and come. No questions? Then write in the writing book. What is a synapse? This came in the exam also. The exact wording they checked. And what is a synapse and types of synapses. Third one, give examples for postsynaptic cells. Shall we continue? Right. So what are the examples for postsynaptic cells? Neuron, muscle cells, or secretory cell. Okay, good. Right. So here, I'm going to tell you what happens inside a synapse. So we are going to draw a synapse. Chemical synapse we are talking about, right? So here is the presynaptic membrane. This may be an axon terminal, right? Now postsynaptic membrane. Make a dendrites right? The gap we call it as synaptic cleft. මේ ඔක්කොම ටික තමයි synapse එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ. right? මොනවද තියෙන්නේ? Presynaptic membrane එක, postsynaptic membrane එක, synaptic cleft එක. right? Right. So now that action potential has reached to this place, let's say. So this place is now depolarized. Right? Now this is at the end of the axon, right? So this is depolarizing the whole thingy, and then this is causing the calcium 2 plus ions to diffuse inside the presynaptic membrane, right? Calcium 2 plus is coming from outside to inside, right? So there are vesicles containing neurotransmitters inside the presynaptic membrane. As a result of movement of calcium 2 plus, these neurotransmitters will be moving forward and joining with the presynaptic membrane and releasing the neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft. තේරුණාද? හරි? Then these neurotransmitters will diffuse through the synaptic cleft, and then there are some receptors on this postsynaptic membrane. අපි කියන protein receptors තියෙනවා කියලා. Likewise, there are receptors for this. So these go and bind with the receptors. And what will happen once they bound with the receptor? They are inducing this postsynaptic membrane to be depolarized. That means opening sodium channels. The sodium ions will be moving faster, and this is depolarizing the postsynaptic membrane. තේරුණාද පුතේ? හරි? So then once the impulse is sent to this side, this neurotransmitter may be recaptured by the presynaptic membrane, or else they may be hydrolyzed and destroyed, right? Otherwise, the stimulus would be continuous. No, you should stop once it is depolarizing the postsynaptic membrane. Come, let's read. An action potential at axon terminal depolarizes the plasma membrane of presynaptic cell. Depolarization at the presynaptic terminal causes calcium 2 plus to diffuse into terminals. This rise in the calcium 2 plus causes binding of synaptic vesicles containing neurotransmitters to the presynaptic membrane. This results release of neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft. Neurotransmitters cause diffuse across the synaptic cleft. Neurotransmitters bind and activate specific receptors in the postsynaptic cell membrane. If acetylcholine is taken for an example of a neurotransmitter, binding of neurotransmitter to the postsynaptic membrane allows sodium and potassium to diffuse across the postsynaptic membrane. Depolarization takes place in the postsynaptic membrane and it reaches to the action potential. After passing the nerve impulse to the postsynaptic cell, signal at presynaptic terminus is terminated either by enzymatic hydrolysis of neurotransmitters or recapture of neurotransmitter into presynaptic terminus. තේරුණාද පුතේ? ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ ටියුට් එකේ ෆස්ට් පේජ් උත් තියෙන්නේ ඕකම තමයි. බලන්න ගිහලා. තියෙනවනේ? ෆස්ට් පේජ් එකේ න? ඕක ටියුට් එකක් දුන්නේ නැද්ද? දුන්නේ නැද්ද? තව එකක් දුන්නේ? That's all? I'll bring it on next week. I'm sorry. I thought I gave. Hari. It's okay. Don't worry. Go to book and draw this one, please. അടുത്ത describe that one in the writing book. That is also like kind of essay question which can come. All done, Rashna? Finish? Right, let's go to the neurotransmitter section. So one neurotransmitter we already discussed, that is acetylcholine. So it says um, neurotransmitters are the molecules that are released from the synaptic terminus of the presynaptic neuron and diffuse across the synaptic cleft and bind to the receptors at the postsynaptic membrane, triggering a response. Common neurotransmitters are acetylcholine, some amino acids, biogenic amines, neuropeptides, and some gases. Right? Right discussion. What are neurotransmitters? Give examples. What are neurotransmitters and give examples. Right. We are coming to the reflex arc. Reflex arc is the functional unit of the nervous system. So there are three neurons involved in the reflex arc. What are the three neurons? Sensory neuron, interneuron, and motor neuron. Yes. So sensory neuron transmit impulses from sensory receptors to the central nervous system, where it synapses with the associated neuron called interneuron, and the impulse is transmitted to motor neuron. Motor neuron conveys the signals to the effector organs or the tissues. Let's come to the common disorders of nervous system. Have you heard about schizophrenia? Schizophrenia is a very common disorder, not common among people. Like you may have heard, right? The word is always there in social media and teledramas, movies, right? Have you heard about someone is coming and telling to do this and not to do this? Visual hallucinations. So that is the characterized feature of schizophrenia. Sometimes some people tend to suicide also because of voices that they hear. නෑ. ඇහෙනවද? හිතෙනවා. හිතන එක ඉතින් කාටද තේරෙන්නේ? අරක ඇහෙනවා ඇත්තටම. right? ඔව් ඇත්තටම ඇහෙනවා. අර මේ ඔගොල්ලෝ බලලා තියෙනවා මූවි එක අර මේ 3 මූවි එක මේ කොලවරි සෝං එක තියෙන මූවි එක. ඒකෙත් එහෙම තමයි අර මේ ඩොග්ව මරන්නේ. අය. සිසොපේනියා ඊළඟට ඔය ළඟ තිබ්බ කතා පොතක් තිබ්බා මේක අද මඩවලගේ කතා පොතක් තිබ්බ මොකක්ද ඒක මන්දෝදරේකෙත් සිසොපේනියා ගැන තිබ්බා right ඒ වගේ ඒක කොමන් අර ඒනට හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඒක right මෙතෙන්ට එන්නකෝ බලන්න this is a severe mental disturbance characterized by psychotic episodes in which patients have distorted perception of reality. They experience voices that only they can hear. They think that others are plotting to harm them. Evidence suggests that this disorder affects neural pathways that use dopamine as neurotransmitter. ඒවට affect වෙන නිසා තමයි මේක වෙන්නේ. No. You can reduce the effects, but there's no cure, right? Right. Let's come to the depression, most common one nowadays. Everyone is having depression like common cold. Depression is likely to be due to complex combination of factors that include changes in neurotransmitter levels in the brain, genetics, psychological, social, and environmental factors. People who are suffering from this disorder show depressed mood, abnormalities in sleep, appetite and energy level. Energy level. Some conditions, once enjoyable activities are no longer pleasurable or interesting. Some conditions involve extreme mood swings. Effective therapies are available to increase the activity of some neurotransmitters in the brain. අනිත් disorder එක Alzheimer's disease. අපි කියනවා dementia. අපතේ හොඳ කරන්න බෑ කියලා තමයි කියන්නේ නම් ඒ කියන්නේ you can control with counseling and some drugs but still it continues. එන්න මම දන්න කට්ටියක තියෙන කොච්චර කරත් ඒක හොඳ වෙන්නේ නැහැ it continues. හොඳ ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා සමහරු කියනවා මම දන්නේ I have not seen who has come out it. Right? Alzheimer's disease. මොකක්ද කියන්නේ dementia අහලා තියෙනවද? dementia වල මොකද වෙන්නේ? අර memory loss එකක් වෙන්නේ. කාලයක් ඒවා මතක නැද්ද? සමහරට අම්මට ළමයිව මතක නැහැ. ළමයිගේ ලොකු කාලේ මතක නැහැ. පොඩි කාලේව විතරයි මතක. They are living in that time period. එහෙම හිටපු ගමන් යනවා ගෙවල් වලින් පාර දිගේ යනවා ළමයිව හොයාගෙන පරණ ගෙවල් හොයාගෙන යනවා නේ. This is a severe mental deterioration characterized by confusion and memory loss. Patients are gradually becoming less able to dress, bathe, and feed themselves. They lose their ability to recognize people, including their immediate family members. Cause of the disease is due to progressive and irreversible degeneration of neurons in the brain, especially in the cerebral cortex, with deteriorating mental functioning. The disease affects elderly people. Genetic factors may be involved. So far, there is no cure for this disease. And මේකේ ස්පෙෂලි කියලා තියෙනවා කියව එකක් නැහැ. ඒකද neurons degenerate වුණාම නෑනේ නේ. හැබැයි ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ 10th unit එකේ කියනවා stem cell therapy වලින් අර neurons එම අපිට හදන්න පුළුවන් නම් මේ වගේ ලෙඩ වලට help කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. හරි? Okay. හරි. ඔය ටික එකපාරක් ආයි කියව ගන්න. පාකින්සන් උත් කියවලා මෙහෙම. පාකින්සන් වලට එන්න. පාකින්සන් වලදී මොකද වෙන්නේ? අර වයස කට්ටියට එන්නේ පාකින්සන් වාඩි වුණොත් නැගිට ගන්න බෑ. නැගිට්ටොත් වාඩි වෙන්න බෑනේ. අපිටත් තියෙනවා ඉතින්. This is a progressive motor disorder that leads to lack of control and coordination of muscle movements. The patients show slowness of movements, difficulty in initiating movements, poor balance, fixed muscle tone අර වේවුලනවා ටික ටික. ඒක වැඩි වෙනවා කාලෙත් එක්ක. ඊළඟට කියනවා lack of facial expressions. අර යඬනවද මොන mood එකේද ඉන්නේ කියලා හිතා ගන්න බෑ. Speech problems අර කටේ side එකක් එහෙම වැඩ ගන්න නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. And muscle tremor of extremities. Example, shaking hand, fingers in the one hand, shaking head. This disease is associated with gradual degeneration of dopamine neurotransmitter, releasing neurons in the brain, midbrain, basal ganglia. The disease is common in elderly people. Genetic factors may be involved. Disease can be treated but not cured. Cure කරන්න බැහැ. Right? කියවන්න බලන්න ටික. Write down these questions, ළමයි. What factors affect depression? What are the Symptoms of depression. Next one, what is the cause for Alzheimer's disease? What is the cause for Alzheimer's disease? Next one, what are the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease? Next one, what are the characteristic features of schizophrenia? Next one, what is the reason for Parkinson disease? What is the reason for Parkinson disease? Next one, what are the symptoms of Parkinson's disease? Last one to write at home. Uh, describe the common disorders. Describe the common disorders associated with the nervous system. හරි ඉක්මනට ලියන්න ලාස්ට් එක ලියන්න ගෙදරදී හරි All finish? Okay. What is the first question I gave? Another. Genetic factors. What else? Psychological, social, environmental factors. What is the next question? Symptoms of depression. What are symptoms? Okay, depressed mood, abnormalities in sleep, appetite and energy level. That's all, eh? Right. Symptom is the like less appetite වගේ කියන්න පුළුවන් නේ. Right. ඊළඟට මොකක්ද හැබැයි? Alzheimer's disease එක මොකක්ද cause එක? Progressive and irreversible degeneration of neurons in the brain, especially in the cerebral cortex, deteriorating mental functioning. Right. Next question. Alzheimer's. What are the symptoms? Confusion and memory loss, and the others also you can write. What is? Gradually becoming less able to dress, bathe or feed themselves. Lost their ability to recognize people, including their immediate family members. නේ ඒක තමයි ගොඩාක්ම වෙලාවට වෙන්නේ. ඊළඟට schizophrenia. Schizophrenia කියලාත් සමහරු කියනවා. මං කියන්නේ schizophrenia කියලා. Right. මොනවාද? Psychotic mental disturbances characterized by psychotic episodes and distorted perception of reality. Neither. Experience of voices that only they can hear. Right. They think that others are plotting to harm them. හැම වෙලාවෙම ඒගොල්ලෝ බයෙන් ඉන්නේ කවුරු හරි මේ ඇවිල්ලා වසදායි කෑම එකට එහෙම කියලා වගේ ඔව් බයෙන් ඉන්න කට්ටිය. හරි. ඊළඟට මොකක්ද ඇහුවේ පාකින්සන් ගැනද? මොනවාද reason for Parkinson? What is it? Gradual degeneration of dopamine neurotransmitter releasing neurons in the brain. Next, the symptoms. Slowness in movements, difficulty in initiating movements, poor balance, fixed muscle tone, causing lack facial expressions, speech problems, muscle tremor of extremities. නේද? ඒ ටික තමයි. හරි. එහෙනම් යමු ඊළඟ ටිකට. We are going to discuss about sensory structures and their functions. Right. It's firstly talking about its sensory receptors. So, at which locations in our sensory receptors are located? Eyes, we have photoreceptors, and in the skin, we have thermoreceptors and mechanoreceptors. Right. What else? Where else? Ears, tongue, and in the nose we have neither. So many sensory receptors are there to get different senses. So they are defining a sensory receptor as a specialized structure which can detect a specific stimulus. That means eye can detect light only, neither, and the ear can detect the sound only. They cannot detect other stimulus, right? So that specific word should be there. Stimulus, and convert the stimulus energy to changing membrane potential. That means it should generate an action potential. Eye should get light and it should convert the light energy into a changing membrane potential. That means action potential, and it should be transmitted to the brain. The sensory receptor should have that ability also. Transmitted to the central nervous system as an action potential for sensory perception and interpretation. That means you are recognizing which color this is using your brain. Otherwise, you can't. Sensory receptors in the eye cannot tell which color is this. And this sound, who is talking and from which distance that you are getting that sound, all these are recognized by the brain. Right? Next, it says sensory receptor can be a specialized cell or an organ or a subcellular structure that could detect the stimuli. Some sensory cells are specialized neurons. Sensory receptors can inform the central nervous system the conditions inside and outside the body in order to maintain the homeostasis. Specific sensory receptors detect the stimuli that arise in the external environment, whereas internal receptors sense the stimuli that arise inside the body. In the homeostasis part, we discussed for homeostasis, we should take the stimuli from external and internal environment. So we have to keep our body in a constant value despite of external and internal changes. Hare. So they are talking about basic characteristics of sensory receptors. If it is a sensory receptor, it should have these characteristics. A specialized structure, cell, organ or subcellular structure designed to receive a specific stimuli. Detect the stimulus if the stimulus is at or above the threshold level. That means sound wave should above 20 hertz, below 20,000 hertz, right? And light should be in the visible range. Otherwise, we can't recognize. Neither. Likewise, convert the energy of the stimulus, for example, light energy or sound energy, into a changing membrane potential to be later transmitted as an action potential. Always connected with nervous system, otherwise they can't proceed. During the conversion of stimulus energy into action potential, sensory signal can be strengthened, which is called amplification. You know, like when sound waves come inside our ear ossicles are amplifying the signal. And likewise, every sensory receptors have some ability to amplify the stimulus which are coming from outside, right? Next one, if the stimulus is continuous, many receptors show decrease in responsiveness, which is called sensory adaptation. For example, upon continuous exposure to a strong smell, perception of that smell gradually decreases and stops within few minutes. For example, in the morning, if you had a perfume, you will not feel it anymore, neither after some time. Oh, same way, like if you are living near like let's say garbage pit, so sometimes you feel, but still it's okay that your sensory adaptation is happening, is it? Likewise, for every stimulus that is happening. Sometimes, you know, like alarm is you can't hear, no? You are used to it, you can't hear the alarm, right? Likewise, it's happening. Hurry. Now we'll give you time. These 6 facts you need to remember very well. I'm going to ask from you. This is always question and also the definition of sensory receptor. Study now itself and finish it. Write down the questions, everyone. Define a sensory receptor. Next one. What can be a sensory receptor? What are the functions of what? What is the main function of a sensory receptor? What is the main function of a sensory receptor? Write the basic characteristics of sensory receptors. Write the basic characteristics of sensory receptors. Lian, tagal Lian. පුතේ. right. ඒ ටික ඕකේ නේ කරන්න පුළුවන් ටිකක් නේ. right. යන්කෝ ඊළඟ ටිකට sensory receptors වලට. by the topic types of sensory receptors. මම ටියුටර් එක දෙන්නම් ඊළඟ වීක් එකේ. sorry මං හිතුව දුන්නා කියලා මට අමතක වුණා. types of sensory receptors. සමිෂ්ක හරිනේ. right. right. අපිට තියෙනවා එක එක types. සමහර ඒවා chemoreceptors. So the stimulus is a chemical. Then chemoreceptors ජාති දෙකක් අපි ඉගෙන ගන්නවා olfactory receptors. කොහෙද මේ olfactory receptors තියෙන්නේ? skin එකේ නෙවෙයි. nasal cavity එකේ. Okay? fragrance එක දැනගන්න. Yes. Right. Then other than that we have taste receptors. කොහෙද taste receptors තියෙන්නේ? tongue එකේ. Right. Then we have thermoreceptors. Thermoreceptors mainly කොහෙද තියෙන්නේ? skin එකේ තියෙනවා. තව hypothalamus එකේ තියෙනවා. අපි දැන් දන්නවනේ නේ. right. ඊළඟට photoreceptors. Photoreceptors කොහෙද තියෙන්නේ? eye එකේ. eye එකෙත් කොහෙද? yes, retina එකේ. Then the other type is mechanoreceptors. Photoreceptors ජාති දෙකක් තියෙනවා rods and cones. mechanoreceptors ජාති ටිකක් තියෙනවා. මොනවාද? පළවෙනි එක touch receptors. කොහෙද තියෙන්නේ touch receptors? skin එකේ. Then pressure receptors කොහෙද තියෙන්නේ? ඒ skin එකේම තමයි. right? ඊළඟට vibration receptors. කොහෙද vibration receptors තියෙන්නේ? ear එකේ. right. skin එකේ තියෙනවා කොටසක් vibration receptors, right? ඊළඟට pain receptors. හරිද? list එක ලියාගමු. Let's go to chemoreceptors. So the stimulation is a particular chemical. Under that, we will be discussing about the olfactory receptors first, right? Come to this place. These are sensory receptors that respond to chemical stimuli. Chemical substances should always be dissolved in water. Again, if you want to feel the taste, the chemical should dissolve in watery medium in saliva. If you want to feel the smell, that should dissolve in the mucus in the nasal cavity, right? The chemicals. Chemoreceptors include taste receptors and olfactory receptors. These receptors mediate the sense of taste and smell. Some chemoreceptors can detect specific chemicals such as carbon dioxide in the circulating blood. Carotid arteries and aorta. pH sensors නේ carbon dioxide sensors නෙවෙයි හැබැයි තිබ්බේ. මෙතන තියෙන්නේ carbon dioxide කියලානේ. carbon dioxide detect කරන්න බෑ. pH. pH එක තමයි detect කරන්නේ carotid artery වල තියෙන ඒවායි දන්නවා lesson එකනේ. carotid arteries වලයි ඔය exam එක තියන්න බැරුණා. carotid artery වලයි aorta එකේ ඊළඟට තව කොහෙද තිබ්බේ? medulla එකේ තිබ්බා receptors නේ. හරි. අපි olfactory receptor එක මම topic එක තියාගත්ත නිසා එකට ගිහින් එමු අනිත් එකට. මෙතෙන්ට එන්න පින්තූරය අඳින්නයි යන්නේ. අපි ඒක නිකන් කැත පින්තූරයක් තියෙන ඒක අඳින්න වෙනවා. හරිද? හරි මාත් එක්ක අඳිමු. අඳිමු පොත එකක් බලාගෙන මගේ එකත් බලාගෙන අඳිමු. ඔය දිනේ අදි papers දෙක දීලා යන ළමයි. මේ brain එකේ තියෙන olfactory bulb එක brain එකට ගොඩක් ළඟයිනේ මේවා. මේගොල්ලන් සීලය හින්දා මම charge එක පොඩි කරනවා මේගොල්ලන්. Anandavansha. And the right. Okay. Come to this description here. Samishka done? Finish? Right. Olfactory receptors. In olfaction, receptor cells are neurons. Olfactory receptor cells are located within the epithelium of the upper portion of the nasal cavity. Receptive ends of the cells extend into the mucous layer of the nasal cavity. When odorants diffuse into this region, receptor cells are stimulated and nerve impulse is sent along the axons to the olfactory bulb in the brain. කොහොමද මේ nerve impulse එක generate වෙන්නේ? දන්නේ? ඒ කලින් ටික කරේ. මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? Depolarization වෙන්න එපායි. Once the stimulus is there, then ඒ පාඩම දෙකක් නෙමෙයි හොඳ same lesson that we are in. මොකද ඉඳාගන්න කට්ටියත් එක්ක කම්මැලි කම්මැලි තමයි ඉතින් මේ ටික මොනව කරන්නේ ඉතින් we can't skip and go. Right. මොනවාද වෙන්නේ එතකොට? Sodium channels are open, sodium ions are coming in. So it causes depolarization of the membrane, right? ඊට පස්සේ nerve impulse will be transmitted through these nerves to the olfactory bulb. අර කලින් කියපු විදිහට කොහොමද transmit උනේ? One place of the axon is depolarized and it is stimulating depolarization of the next place. Likewise, the stimulus is propagating until the brain. Right. So next, write the topic, taste receptors. Where can we see the taste receptors? In the tongue. Here. So in the tongue, there are projections, we call them papillae. Inside the papillae only these taste buds are located. See, the structure of a papillae is given here. In that also there are many taste buds present. So we are going to draw only a taste bud here, right? Inside a taste bud, we have taste cells and supportive cells. So අඳින් පුතේ මාත් එක්ක. ඔක ඇඳලා ඉවරයක් කළා. nerve cells initiate වෙන්නේ taste cells වලින් හරි nerve neurons taste cells we have taste hairs also. පොතේ taste cells supporting cells I think ඒගොල්ලෝ මාරු කරලා තියෙනවා right මම ඒක ආයි check කරන්නම් neurons නැති ඒවා තමයි මම supporting cells විදිහට ගන්නෙ Let's read about it. Mm, taste receptors. Five basic sensations of taste have been described: sweet, sour, bitter, salt, umami. That means in the tongue there are regions that are allocated for each of the taste. Um, Receptor cells for taste are modified epithelial cells organized into taste buds. Taste buds are found in papillae, which are small projections of the tongue. The taste bud consists of taste cells, supporting cells, and sensory nerve endings. Substances to be tasted should be dissolved in the fluid surrounding the sensory cells and diffuse to the receptor cells. තේරුණාද වැඩේ? හරි. එහෙනම් ඕකෙන් questions ලියන්න. What are the five basic sensations of taste? What are the five basic sensations of taste? දෙක what are found inside a taste bud? Number 3, what are the locations of? What is the location of taste bud? Number 4, what is the location of olfactory receptor? Sorry, vertically. හරි මේම කරමු අනිත් ටිකත් ඉවර කරලා මේම එක්ක ඔය ටික ඉදිරිය මෙතෙන්ට එන්නකෝ thermoreceptors අපි දන්නවා deep body temperature එක කවුද detect කරන්නේ hypothalamus එකේ තියෙන special nerve endings නේ special ඊළඟට peripheral temperature එක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ruffinic corpuscles වලින් detect කරන්නේ heat එක warmth එක ඊළඟට Krause and bulbs වලින් cold එක සීතල and then free nerve endings can detect both රස්නේ සීතලයි දෙකම පුළුවන් ආයවන. හරි? Okay. Right. ඊළඟට මෙතනට එන්න කියවන්න. Thermoreceptors are specialized temperature sensitive receptors which detect heat and cold on the body surface in the internal environment of the body. Thermoreceptors located in the skin detect the body surface temperature, whereas thermoreceptors found in the hypothalamus detects the temperature of the temperature of the blood circulating through the internal organs, core temperature. The thermoreceptors are found in the skin are Krause and bulbs detect cold, Ruffini corpuscles detect warmth, and free nerve endings detect both cold and warm. Thermoreceptors found in the hypothalamus are specialized neurons, right? එතෙන්ටම ප්‍රශ්නයක් මම ඇඩ් කරගෙන යන්නම්. Number 5. What are thermoreceptors? Number 6. Where can we find thermoreceptors? ඊළඟට photoreceptors වලට යන් as we discussed in the retina of the human eye we can see two types of photoreceptors, rods and cones. Rods are detecting rods give us vision in the night time. That means it's detecting only the light, no, not giving color vision, right? Cones are, there are three types of cones, red, green and blue color responsible cones තියෙනවා, right? එතකොට ඒවයින් තමයි color vision එක දෙන්නේ. බලන්න මෙතන කියනවා photoreceptors are sensitive to light. Humans have two main types of photoreceptor cells called rods and cones. Rods are more sensitive to light but do not distinguish colors. They enable us to see at night but only in black and white. Cones, they provide color vision but they contribute very little to night vision as they are not much sensitive. There are three types of cones. Each has different sensitivity across the visible spectrum, providing optimal response to red, green and blue light. Three types තියෙනවා. හරි? හරි. ඒකේම ප්‍රශ්න ලියමු. 7th one, what are the two major types of photoreceptors? Number 8. What are the three types of cones present in eye? Number 9, what is the location of photoreceptors? Number 10, write the functions of each photoreceptor mentioned above. හරිද පුතේ? හරි. එන්න හැමෝම mechanoreceptors වලට ඔය ටික ලියාගෙන ටක් ගාලා